Today we are looking at wager matches, also known as the fight of bets. These are like hair versus hair, mask versus mask. There are a bunch of them. Retirement matches, loser leaves town. There are a bunch of them. Now these are big in Lucha Libre in Mexico. The thing is, I'm going to have to explain a little bit about the masks and how they came about before I can go into the wager matches. So hang on. So hang in here with me. In the 1920s is when masks came about in Mexico. Right around the time wrestling got more showy. But they were not as they are now. What would happen is a wrestler would work a match with a mask on, and people would bet on the masked wrestler or the unmasked wrestler, and they'd also bet on who the masked wrestler was. So then if the masked wrestler won, he'd take off his mask, and they'd win money if they were right. Well, slowly, the masked wrestlers wrestling with the masks on kept their gimmick longer and longer. They'd take it off after a month, they'd take it off after a couple weeks, something like that. But they'd always take the mask off, revealing who they were. This lasted until really the 1930s, when a masked American wrestler came down to Mexico. I don't remember his name. It's some long name that I'd butcher anyways. He came down to Mexico and wrestled with a permanent mask on. And then other people started doing it the same. This is when really the tradition of the masks were born, and painting the masks to look like what you wanted to be had arrived. Now, the first wager match of proof I could find was on 1940 and was between a smaller guy and a larger guy. And the larger guy was so much bigger than the smaller guy that the smaller guy said, "I'll bet my mask, but he has to bet his hair." And the big guy won, and the smaller guy lost his mask. Now, in a mask versus mask match, the two wrestlers bet their masks. This is a very popular match in Mexico, and we've seen a few mask versus mask matches in Lucha Underground and in WCW. In WCW, half the luchadors lost their masks because, let's face it, WCW had no honor for Lucha Libre. They did not respect Lucha Libre in WCW. But Lucha Underground did, and had a few mask versus mask matches. And a mask versus mask match was the end to a heated feud. Really big feud, a mask versus mask match. One of the biggest was between El Santo and Black Shadow, which established El Santo as the next big thing. Now, mask versus hair match is where one wrestler bets his hair and the other wrestler bets his mask. This is not so big in Mexico, but it's bigger in the United States because a wrestler can be shaven, lose his hair multiple times. I've said shaven multiple times. But you can only lose your mask once, or you just switch gimmicks, something like that. Get another mask. There were wrestlers in Mexico who put their hair on the line against masks numerous times and won, such as Goyo. Now, this was also done in WCW when Ray and Conan Ray put his mask on the line against the Outsiders and Miss Elizabeth's hair. Now, we all wanted to see Miss Elizabeth shaved bald, but Ray lost his mask. Now, there's also a hair versus hair match, which is not quite as exciting, but is kind of more popular in the States. And we all know this one, each wrestler bets their hair. But if you have really long hair, they can just cut it short. Now, there's also a mask versus title, or hair versus title, or mask versus pretty much, or retirement versus title match. Now, a mask versus title match in Lucha Libre, it doesn't happen often because a mask is worth so much more than a title. The mask means a lot to a Lucha Libre wrestler. But this is popular in the States, as Rey Mysterio put his mask against Chris Jericho's Intercontinental title at one point, and Kane put his mask against Triple H's World Heavyweight title. Rey Mysterio won and Kane lost. There's also a retirement match, which I don't remember any of the Mexican names for these things, which is retirement versus retirement, or mask versus retirement, hair versus retirement. Now the thing is with this, if a wrestler has been unmasked, a lot of times they retire shortly afterwards because it's such a devastating blow to lose your mask in Lucha Libre. But if they're on their way out, they might go out on a retirement match. And that's when these retirement matches come in handy. Conan lost one of these in Mexico and then started wrestling 3 months later. Kind of like Ric Flair did here in the States. He just went to a different company. Kind of like Daniel Bryan did. He lost a retirement match against Roman Reigns and just went to Raw. This is also known in the States as a loser leaves town match. Or when they don't retire, they go to a different company. There's also a reverse match, which this is where you put either the Lucha Libres in masks, put their hair on the line, so they've got to loosen the mask up enough so they can bet their hair, or they put someone else's mask or hair on the line. Which, needless to say, this is not a popular match at all. That's like, you're not betting anything because most of the time you can't see their hair anyways. And so Mexican fans kind of don't like this match. I think that about covers all the matches. As I said, what's really big putting on the line is the mask. That is the thing that's big putting on the line in a heated feud. But a lot of the other ones you see more in America. So hair versus hair sometimes can be built up good, or hair versus mask. Sometimes you have wrestlers who have built up such a streak against taking people's masks and keeping their hair, like Perry Goya, who it can be built huge. So that is a brief history of this and talking about this. Some people were really good at this. I mean, El Santo took multiple masks. Perry Goya took multiple masks before he eventually lost his hair. We all wish Miss Elizabeth would have lost her hair, but oh well. So, join me later in the week. I know I said the movie was Pinocchio in Space, but I got to do a Pride movie this month before the month ends. And so it's going to be the Rocky Horror Picture Show sequel, Shock Treatment.